Well, welcome to our presentation on why you should be drinking hydrogen water. My name is Lynn Morales, and I'm a naturopath in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've been a naturopath for over 17 years. And so basically that means that I just look at the body from a holistic perspective, and I work to identify the root cause of illness. So we're going to take some time this day to learn a little bit more about hydrogen water. And stay tuned through the entire presentation. We're going to have a special offer at the end as well. But let's get some of the formalities out of the way. Just so you know, I am not here to treat, diagnose, or cure anything. I am simply offering information. I'm not in any way offering medical advice. And want you to be able to sit back and relax and enjoy this presentation. What I mean by that is we offer you the resources afterwards, and so you'll get a full playback as well, and all the resources that were used to put this presentation together, and there are many. So feel free to enjoy the time and just learn, just kind of soak it up, so to speak, which is a great thing when it's talking about hydrogen water, right? So let's start off with this thought. What is it? What's molecular hydrogen? So it's actually a gas with very unique and selective antioxidant effects. Molecular hydrogen refers to a diatomic hydrogen, or H2 gas. So I bet you feel like you're in chemistry now. So two hydrogen atoms combined together. And hydrogen, you may remember from chemistry, is the smallest molecule in the universe, and it's neutral and nonpolar. So that makes it really great from a bioavailability perspective, meaning how well your body can deal with it. So it does not dissociate into its electrons and protons when dissolved in water. So it actually does not alter the pH of water or your body. And so it really has nothing to do with the concepts that have been put in place over the years about alkaline water. And we're going to talk about that momentarily. But just wanted you to know that we're not talking about alkaline water. This is all about hydrogen and the powerful effect of it. And so it's hydrogen gas is 3 times more energy dense than gasoline. And that's why it's actually being looked at as an alternative energy source or a fuel. So hydrogen is what powers the sun and the fusion in producing helium. You know, when you suck in helium and you talk funny. So research is finding that hydrogen can also be extremely therapeutic. And it's effective whether you inhale it or you dissolve it in water and drink it, or you apply it using other methods. So a lot of people don't realize this. There are actually more than 1,000 peer-reviewed scientific publications on molecular hydrogen. And they've been collectively demonstrated, they've collectively demonstrated that hydrogen, or H2, has the therapeutic potential in over 170 different human and animal disease models. In fact, one of the things they showed is that hydrogen is beneficial to virtually every organ in the body, every organ in the human body. That's amazing. And so that's the reason why hydrogen, is being targeted right now to mitigate like the root cause of a lot of different diseases and inflammation and oxidation. So molecular hydrogen, it remediates oxidative stress. So that's one of those fundamental mechanisms that actually destroys the human body, oxidative stress. And so that's why molecular hydrogen is super exciting, because it's such a unique antioxidant effect that specifically targets those really, really harmful free radicals. You've probably heard about free radicals. So let's talk about, there are 2 basic definitions of an antioxidant. So the first one is a molecule that donates an electron to a radical reaction. And then the second one is a molecule that improves something called the redox status of the cell. So let's talk about what is a redox status. That actually stands for oxidation reduction. So redox, oxidation reduction. And in your cells, you need both oxidation and a reduction of oxidation in order for everything to work properly. So when the balance gets perturbed by too much oxidation, you actually can end up with that oxidative stress. But if you don't have enough oxidation, then you can actually end up with some more serious problems. And in many cases, the damage is not caused by an excess of free radicals, but rather that redox dysregulation piece. So, hydrogen, has a lot of antioxidant effects, and it works primarily by improving that redox status of the cell when the cell needs it. So as a result, you actually see improvements in what they call superoxide dismutase and glutathione levels, for example. Maybe you've heard of glutathione as an amino acid. And so not only does hydrogen selectively reduce the most toxic radicals, but it actually can help prevent an excess. And an excess becomes toxic. And so when you can reduce that excess, that's super powerful. And so this is how it's a preventative measure. So depending on your individual diet and your diet, but you as an individual as well, you've got this intestinal bacteria, and that ferments fiber, and they produce about 2.5 gallons of hydrogen a day. So 2.5 gallons of hydrogen gas a day by these intestinal bacteria. And so that's actually part of that therapeutic benefit of fiber itself. And so what they talk about is that, from an evolutionary perspective, we've always been exposed to hydrogen gas. And so they say that the facts alone are indicative of how safe it is when you look at the hydrogen gas that we've been exposed to. So they basically say that anybody can have hydrogen, extra hydrogen, pregnant women, children, everybody. And hydrogen gas itself is extremely safe. And they actually have used it since the 1940s in deep sea diving to prevent decompression sickness. And that's according to Tyler LeBaron. He's a world-class expert on molecular hydrogen. So you might be wondering, so if hydrogen is so beneficial and our body already produces a lot of it, why do we need to ingest it? What's that about? That's a great question. So there was a study done at Nagoya University, and they showed that while continuous administration of hydrogen in the air was ineffective for the prevention of Parkinson's disease, but intermittent exposure was very effective. And so they're saying that the greatest effects were obtained by drinking hydrogen-rich water. So just what is it about this cyclical or intermittent exposure that makes such a big difference? And what they said is this Tyler LeBaron, he indicates that it actually modulates gene expression and many of the transcription factors when the RNA turns into the DNA. So if you've ever known anybody that had Parkinson's, then clearly, their gut health wasn't what it needed to be for that bacteria to produce enough hydrogen to be beneficial to prevent them from having that Parkinson's issue. So there's a lot of other research, that still needs to be done, but there sure has been a lot that's already out there. And there are other studies that show how effective it is. And I want to share one with you. And so in one study, they had 50 patients with what they call a cerebral infarction, which is basically an obstruction of blood supply. 25 of the patients received inhalation, hydrogen inhalation, and 25 in the control group received an approved medical drug. And so what they found is that the hydrogen was significantly more effective than the approved drug on all the measured parameters and with zero side effects. That's very powerful. So there was another study published for Alzheimer's disease specifically. And one of the things they looked at is at what they call the genotype. And it says that there's something called an APOE4 genotype. And those are susceptible to Alzheimer's disease when people have that gene. And when we look at the effects of drinking hydrogen-rich water, they found that it was significantly therapeutic for that disease. And that's huge because I don't know if you've noticed or heard, there aren't any approved drugs that are effective for Alzheimer's disease. And so this is really important news. So, there's also a lot of evidence. A lot of people were talking about, intermittent fasting. And here's the thing, as it relates to Alzheimer's, there's evidence that shows that when you have this APOE4 gene, it is really important that you do intermittently fast because they said that's really helpful to actually help avoid Alzheimer's. And so that's important. And as it relates to hydrogen, hydrogen actually mimics the effect of intermittent fasting. And so what LeBaron cited in one of his studies that he published in the Journal of Obesity, he basically showed that drinking hydrogen-rich water had the same effect as restricting calories by about 20%. So, fasting and molecular hydrogen increase something called like neuroprotective gastric ghrelin secretion. Now, ghrelin is a hunger hormone, ghrelin. And so the same effect happened between fasting, the intermittent fasting, and having the molecular hydrogen in the picture. And so in that study, it was actually shown that one of the primary mediators was doing this and it was benefiting those with Parkinson's. So again, we've got now extremely beneficial impact for Alzheimer's and now Parkinson's again. So lots of great research going on. Now, if you know anyone who's a diabetic, let's talk about that because that is quite an epidemic around our country. Clinical studies have shown that molecular hydrogen effectively prevents liver damage that can be caused by high sugar diets and something called metabolic syndrome. And so that metabolic syndrome studies, what they saw is that glucose levels in some of those with impaired glucose tolerance were brought back within normal range simply by bringing molecular hydrogen into the picture for them. So a lot of great research that this Tyler LeBaron is doing on hydrogen. So let's talk about pH and what does that have to do with all this? So we're going to take a little break and say, okay, let's talk about alkaline water because there's so many claims surrounding the benefits of alkaline water and it's been around for a while. And actually the benefits of alkaline also has to do with hydrogen. And that's where a lot of confusion comes into play. So I want to clear that up. So that concept of the acidity and alkalinity of your body or of water is based on the pH scale. So let's talk about what is the pH scale. So that's just a measure of the concentration of hydrogen, there's the H, the concentration of hydrogen ions. So the higher a liquid's pH, the fewer free hydrogen ions that it has. And the lower its pH, the more hydrogen ions that it has. So let's look at it from maybe numbers you'll relate to a little better. So 1 pH unit reflects a 10-fold change in that ion concentration. So there are 10 times as many hydrogen ions available at a pH of 7 versus at a pH of 8. So moving on with our alkaline conversation. So what do the experts have to say about alkaline water? And a gentleman by the name of Mark Timmons, he's CEO of US Water Systems. He had this to say. He said, to alkalize your body means that you give the body the ability to maintain a proper pH. But in order to do that, you need water with alkalinity, not alkaline water. Now that may sound confusing, but he goes on to explain. So pH merely measures the degree of acidity or alkalinity, not the capacity to actually neutralize acid. You also don't alkalize your body based upon pH, but rather on alkalinity. So he says that some have claimed that as the stomach acid neutralizes alkaline water, the bicarbonate ions are released into the blood, and thus it has an alkalizing effect. This would be true if the alkaline water effectively neutralized all the stomach acid, like baking soda. But alkaline water doesn't neutralize any significant quantity of stomach acid. The stomach acid completely neutralizes the alkaline water. So there's actually no net alkalizing effect. So you might be saying, well, is alkalized water a scam then? What was that about? Well, one of the key reasons why the consumption of alkaline water cannot confer the health benefits associated with alkalinity, it's because you can't alter the pH of your blood and your body in that manner. So alkaline water actually has no buffers to maintain that pH. So the instant that alkaline water hits your very acidic stomach, the pH is immediately neutralized and there are no buffers. So truly alkaline water would have an alkaline buffer like baking soda or sodium bicarbonate. And that's also our body's natural alkaline buffer. So for the people that have reported benefits from drinking alkaline water, that's actually the placebo effect at play. And the initial improvement can be attributed to detoxifying and improving hydration in the body in general, because simply drinking more water will do great things for the body and clear out a lot of toxins and a lot of yuck that's causing the body to feel achy and sore and inflamed. So the last thing is on alkaline water is that it's often correlated with having a higher mineral concentration, which is known to have some beneficial effects, particularly when dietary intake from food is low. So there's reasons why people might believe that alkaline water is the way to go. But the research, the evidence-based medical research clearly, hands down, is in favor of hydrogen water. So now let's move on to the infamous energy drinks. So would you want that over hydrogen water? Well, we're going to talk about that. So over the centuries, people have had a variety of beverages to give that extra burst of energy. So trends were maybe we went from tea to coffee, and then to soft drinks, and then energy drinks. But bottom line, the ultimate goal was always the same, right? We wanted more energy. But unfortunately, the goal of gaining extra energy has led us a little too far. And the number of annual emergency department visits involving energy drinks has more than doubled between 2007 through 2011. So dangerous stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. So let's move into that. So you might call CocaCola the first energy drink. It wasn't officially marketed as that. But CocaCola was launched in 1886, and it originally contained two strong stimulants, and maybe you've heard of them. One was caffeine, and the other was cocaine. Yeah. So the company's name, Coca-Cola, was actually derived from the coca plant, from which cocaine is derived, and the cola nut. That was the source of the caffeine. Now, along about 1960, a company in Japan, Taisho Pharmaceuticals, made the first drink specifically targeted at increasing energy. And it contained essential vitamins and taurine, niacin, metabolic agents, proven to boost concentration and energy. But then building on that, on about 1987, an Austrian, he added caffeine and sugar, and he renamed that drink one you've heard of, Red Bull. That's right. And so by 1997, Red Bull was introduced in the US, and then it was followed closely by Monster Energy Drink and 5-Hour Energy Drink. And then the explosion of those sales occurred by like 2006. And so all the others have, garnered part of the market, but Red Bull remains that best known with annual sales of nearly $2 billion globally. That is a lot of money. They actually say that the market value is predicted to reach 61 billion for energy drinks by 2021. That's just next year. And it's estimated that 30% of teenagers from 12 to 17 years drink energy drinks on a regular basis. Now, why is that little piece of information thrown in there, and why is that important? Well, because they did some research studies. Now, I don't know about you, but it seems like probably at least once a year, I will hear about a young athlete in that age group who's out at a 2-a-day football practice or something in football season, and they drop dead. And I think this research study has a lot of information to explain that. So in the study, it showed that energy drinks significantly prolonged electrocardiogram measurements and raised blood pressure. So the goal of this research study was to determine the impact that energy drinks may have on electrocardiographic and hemodynamic parameters in healthy volunteers with no known heart disease risk. So they gathered 34 participants, and the average age was 22 years, and they enrolled them in this randomized double-masked placebo-controlled crossover study. So the participants drank 32 ounces of energy drink A, energy drink B, or a placebo over 60 minutes on 3 different study days. And between each study day, they underwent a 6-day washout period. So what exactly was measured? Well, let's talk about that. Now, this is kind of some deep science, but we're going to get to the point, but just stick with me. So the primary end measurement was the assessment of various heart rhythms and those electrical properties of the heart. Now, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you ever watched any of those medical shows, you've seen, all those, ECGs and EKGs and all the kinds of Gs out there, right? You see these little waves going across the screen. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, these electrical properties of the heart. So, and they measured these in medical terms like QT, QTC, which is corrected QT intervals, and then PR intervals and QRS duration. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of alphabet soup, so let's talk it through. So the QT interval refers to your heart rhythm. So that's what they were measuring, is your heart rhythm. And what they were looking at in layman's terms is they were looking at, could they explain, what was going on with the electrical pulses that govern the pumping action of the heart and how these drinks were affecting it. So that long or prolonged QT refers to that fast, chaotic heartbeats that can trigger things like fainting, seizures, and even sudden death. Remember I mentioned that story about those athletes, right? So it says, according to the Food and Drug Administration, the prolongation of this QTC interval, remember that's what the ECG machines measure, is an established risk factor for heart arrhythmias. So this is what they figured out in this study with this group of young people. So next time you hear this in the news, you're going to go, I bet he had an energy drink before he went out on the field, right? Or on the court or whatever he was doing, right? So let's get to the results of the study though, because this is important. So they confirmed that the energy drink caused that prolongation of that QTC interval that we learned about, right? And that remained sustained over a 4-hour period of time. So I guess that drink, they call themselves 5-hour energy drink, should have only called itself 4-hour energy drink. I don't know. But as opposed to being, a transient effect. So basically, the commonly available energy drink had a similar effect on that electrocardiogram parameters. So they contained a combination of things like caffeine, taurine, and B vitamins. And that's what was part of those drinks. Now, the placebo drink, it only had lime juice, carbonated water, and cherry flavoring. So the energy drinks raised what they call the brachial and the central blood pressure measurements. And they recommended that those with acquired or any kind of congenital QT syndrome, right, that rhythm syndrome, and those that had high blood pressure should limit their intake of those energy drinks, as the beverages may actually worsen their conditions. Isn't that horrible? So if you know people who drink energy drinks, and you might know that they have stuff going on with their heart, or they go, oh, I had this rapid heartbeat, or, they felt like a weird rhythm, you have a thought now. It's not just caffeine. There's a whole lot more to this. So, there was a professor of pharmacy practice out at university in the Pacific's Thomas J. Long School of Pharmacy in Stockton, California. And he actually stated the effects went beyond what they might have expected from caffeine alone, which is what I just stated, right? And one of the things he said was, we urgently need to investigate the particular ingredient or combination of ingredients in different types of energy drinks that might explain the findings seen in our clinical trial. So, interesting. So, a word of caution and something to think about as you're getting back to the gym, and maybe you have young people that that are working out or working really hard to be a high level athlete. Important to share this information. So Dr. John Higgins, he's a chief of cardiology at Lyndon B. Johnson Hospital. He led a study looking at the effects of energy drink on blood vessel function. And so he enlisted 44 non-smokers. They were healthy medical students in their 20s. And he tested the students' blood vessels before and then 90 minutes after they drank a 24-ounce energy drink. And what the researchers found is noticeably diminished function and diameter of the blood vessels. And they used an ultrasound measurement device to verify that blood vessel health. So what they actually found is that the dilation was 5.1% in diameter before they drank the energy drink. And it fell to 2.8 after they drank the energy drink, suggesting, an impairment of function. So what Higgins reported is that a lot of young people use energy drinks when they exercise or in circumstances when the body requires, like top functioning, arterial blood flow, so oxygen can get to the cells quickly, right? But what they learned is that the reduction in that vessel diameter effectively restricted the blood flow and the oxygen delivery. And he said, it was more work for the heart and less oxygen supply for the heart. This could explain why there have been cases where kids have had a cardiac arrest after an energy drink. So interesting information there. So what should we do to replace our energy drinks? Well, of course, right? Hydrogen water is one of these recommendations. They're basically saying, we all know performance is the name of the game. And so whether you're at the gym or you're in the office, more and more adults are wanting to function at their best, mentally and physically. And so no matter what your end goal is, people want to gain energy to push through fatigue, raise their metabolism to help burn body fat. Maybe it's to maintain their blood flow, or pump your muscles, or just sharpen your mind. But know this, the drink you choose matters. And when we're talking about water, I love people who ask me, well, can I have, tea instead, iced tea? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, it's made with water. And I'm like, right, but it's spelled different than water. So it's not the same. And no, I don't want you to replace tea for water. Because first of all, tea has caffeine, and anything with caffeine is going to have a diuretic, and a diuretic means it's going to pull even more water out of your cells and your muscles and all your tissues. So not a good decision. So the addition of hydrogen to water has a lot of benefits in animal and human studies. We've kind of shared that already. One of them it demonstrated anti-fatigue effects on swimming mice. Now, can you just picture a few mice doing like the backstrokers? I was just like picturing that, or they're doing the butterfly. Anyway, demonstrated effects of anti-fatigue in those swimming mice. The other thing is the pre-exercise hydration with hydrogen-rich water reduced lactate levels. And improve the exercise-induced decline of muscle function. So if you're one of those people who gets like muscle cramps and things like that, you're probably actually dehydrated. And would recommend, I always recommend to clients in my practice, your body weight divided by 2 in ounces is how much water you should actually drink. So your body weight divided by 2, and that's how many ounces your body actually requires. So another a benefit of this addition of hydrogen, that natural antioxidant that helps to combat the stress. So what it does is it destroys those free radicals without breaking down into new ones. And then the other thing is it may help regulate immune response. Yeah, that's important to all of us right now. Immune systems, we all figured out we had one in the last few months. And then the cardiometabolic disease, it's also extremely helpful for that. So how exactly do you get hydrogen? So, well, there's a few therapies out there. Few ways to administer it. One of them is you can inhale hydrogen gas. And for this, there are inhalation machines that you can actually buy. Caution's required though, using those. The gas produced at the cathode in hydrogen gas, but if the electrodes are impure or develop like a mineral buildup, and I know that for sure would happen where I live because we have horrible mineral buildup, then the water that you're using has chloride in it, and then chlorine gas can actually be produced, in which case you would then be inhaling chlorine gas, right? So that doesn't sound very good. So something to just be cautious of in that respect. Now there's other methods, and those are like drinking or bathing in hydrogen-rich water. And what you could do is, a few ways to do that. We're going to share with you actually a great option for drinking hydrogen water in a moment. But a couple things, you could bubble it into the water, the hydrogen, from a tank of hydrogen gas, and dissolve it under pressure. But you got to keep in mind, that if you plan on storing that, you can't use plastic containers because the hydrogen molecules are so tiny that they're going to dissipate right through that container. So you would then lose your investment of hydrogen, right? But for clarification, hydrogen gas is simply 2 hydrogen atoms bound together. So when you dissolve it into water, it will not attach to water molecules. So there's no risk that you're going to create some other structure, so to speak. And so there, intravenous hydrogen-rich saline injections and hyperbaric hydrogen therapy that was developed in Japan. Lots of options like that. So what I was going to share with you is an option. You probably have learned a lot about hydrogen water now. What I want to share with you is an option that we use, and I think you'll find that helpful. This is a hydrogen-enriched water system, and I've already laid out the benefits. You know far more than what this picture has to say now about hydrogen water benefits. but been very impressed with this company. And they've allowed us the opportunity to give you a special through this presentation. And so what I'm going to share with you is they've been in business for, gosh, probably about 15 or more years. And what they're offering us with this system, you can actually get this is a on-the-counter system, that right side device that you see there. But they have the opportunity for you to purchase a faucet that you can then just pull the hydrogen right out of your tap, and the water would run through that hydrogen system on the right. So what they're offering is free shipping through FedEx, so that's $99 value. The second bonus is a free installation if you're here in the US. That's a $250 value. So you can't go wrong with that. And then we're also going to be able to provide you a free ebook on, we'll have a lot of those studies in it that we referenced, and that's a $25 value. So let me tell you more though. There's a bit more you want to know about what these guys are doing. This company offers a 5-year warranty, but what's amazing, I love their 30-day satisfaction guarantee. And I don't know about you, I remember the first time I drank hydrogen water, it was exactly the effect I was looking for. And you may find you'll start to feel a bit thirsty after you start to drink it, because your cells are like, oh my gosh, yes, I need that. And that's the sign that's good water, because that's getting to your cells. And most people, I hate to tell you guys this, most people, like 99% of our population, is dehydrated. If you didn't follow that formula I said earlier, your body weight divided by 2 in ounces, then you're dehydrated. And then you add in more water for all the caffeine you drink on top of that, right? So, so what they are offering is, this offer is valued at $3,144, but minus the shipping, minus the installation. They list this unit at $27.95, but I want to tell you a little bit more about it. An additional benefit, they're going to allow us to give you a link where you can actually get an additional $300 off of that pricing. So that is a phenomenal deal. And you'll see it once it gets to the shopping cart. That you won't see it at first when you select it, but when it gets to the shopping cart, that's when you'll see the $300 off. So with this Echo H2 machine and all the bonuses, risk-free in-home use for 30 days, 5-year warranty, for $24.95. And the neat thing about this company also I wanted to share, they do offer a opportunity for you to receive the machine through financing, where if you pay it off in the first 12 months, you actually don't have any finance fees. So, you know, again, you have to qualify for that, but that makes it extremely economical. And then the amazing benefits. Now, one thing that goes with this machine is they have some phenomenal features that are part of this machine. In particular, it's a bit like adding almost like homeopathic remedies to the machine that you can actually almost dial up on your phone or on your computer. And it's like those frequencies with EKG machines, right? They have homeopathic frequencies that kind of align with this machine as well, covering anything from digestion concerns to muscle to cardiac to you name it. There are a number of things, and even things for, you know, skeletal system and respiratory and things like that. So immune system function, all that. So really a neat program. And we can answer more questions about that if you'd like to reach out to us. So just want you to know, we are here to answer any questions. Before we go, I want you to know about a couple of things coming up. This Saturday, we are about to close the registration for that, but we have another online offering of the Body Talk Access class, where we actually teach phenomenal immune system support, whole body realigning and restructuring. And it's all something you learn with knowledge in your head and your hands. You learn it once and use it for a lifetime. So just want you aware of that. That's this Saturday, June 20th. We will not be offering this again until the fall. So, you know, when you want your immune system strong, now's the time to learn about it, not waiting until we figure out what comes up in the fall with all the latest developments around the world. And our next free webinar is on July 12th, 8 o'clock Central Time, Wellness in the Workplace. And some of that might look like wellness in the home place now, but just so you know, both of these classes are listed on our website, accesscompletewellness.com. And there you will find it on the home page, and they'll be listed near the bottom, and you can register for those. I cannot tell you the value in that class coming up on Saturday. You should read the testimonials of what families have been able to do when they could not necessarily access healthcare. That's key. That's why it's called Access, Body Talk Access, helping families access healthcare. On that note, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all for joining. You can reach us at accesscompletewellness.com. Our phone number, 972-712-0892. You can email us at info@accesscompletewellness.com.